So the first one I want to mention is Ethereum name service, which is actually what inspired the name cryptofern.eth. And to understand Ethereum name service, it helps to understand what domain name service is, since it's basically trying to copy what domain name service is doing in the current internet. So domain name service is basically like the phone book of devices that live in the current internet, right? So phone books, they attach names to phone numbers. The DNS registry, they attach names to IP addresses. So the computers that operate the internet, they only know how to speak to each other with these IP address numbers, right? So, but when we humans, when we're using the internet, we can't remember all these super long numbers when we're surfing the web. So rather than putting in these IP addresses, we just use these easy domain names like google.com or facebook.com. And that's what we use to surf the web, right? But what's going on in the background, right, when one of us types in google or facebook.com, some other DNS server is kind of coming in between our request and first, going to verify, it checks in the database to see where it is that you're trying to go based on the domain name that you provided, and then it takes you to those machines, to that server, right? The issue, right, with this current approach in the internet is that there are these third-party companies, right, that are essentially managing these different databases, right, that store the different names to IP addresses. But they're also the ones that are hosting this code that's doing all the translating, all the redirecting, right, while we're surfing the web. And this kind of goes back to the trust that's needed to be placed in these third parties to facilitate all of this identity management, right, within the internet. And so Ethereum name service attempts to do the very same thing as DNS, where DNS is this phone book of IP addresses for the internet. ENS is the phone book of wallet addresses for the blockchain internet. And so the idea is pretty simple, and that's that instead of this phone book of addresses, right, being managed by different, companies where you can set up your own domain name with one company, but there's a bunch of different companies that you can do it with. Instead, it's managed as a smart contract that you can only add to, right? So people can basically only register new names on this Ethereum name service, and they cannot delete or modify any of the names. And so ENS allows you to attach a name to a wallet address, right? And instead of you having .com, you have .eth. And this is really handy because right now, if I wanted to send some ether to my buddy John Doe, I'd have to copy and paste this super long address of letters and numbers. Wallet addresses, the public addresses of wallets are in this like long hash, right? And I wouldn't even try to write it down letter by letter, right? And I definitely probably won't remember it, right? I won't remember John Doe's or anybody else's long wallet address. So by having these ENS equivalents, I can easily share my wallet address, and it makes it much easier for us to interact in these blockchain systems. But the biggest details is that there's no third party that is storing or upkeeping this registry of names, right? It's all stored as a smart contract that lives in the blockchain. And so anyone can go in and verify, validate the information in this registry, but nobody can go in and change what's been added to the database. And the idea is that the smart contracts living in the blockchain, they're not only doing the managing and the storing of the phone book, but they're also doing the redirecting, the translating of the names to the wallet addresses with the machines that are actually running the blockchain internet, right? And what this ends up doing is that it decentralizes this, current identity service that DNS is currently doing in the internet, right? Of helping the machines and humans interact better over the web. And this is all, again, with Ethereum name service being managed by these smart contracts that are deployed to the blockchain. And in the future, if there really is a large majority of the population that's actually interacting on the new blockchain internet, we have to utilize a service like this, right? Because it just makes it so much easier for us when we're interacting on the blockchain. And so that's a brief summary really on ENS, since there's really a ton more info on Ethereum name service. You can use ENS to set up a wallet to accept any kind of cryptocurrency, so not just Ether or any of the Ethereum tokens, any cryptocurrency. So highly encourage you to learn more about ENS and ENS DAO, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, which is the entity that backs the Ethereum name service.